Let me begin with something that may shake you a little this morning. Power is not something you wait to feel. It is something you decide to walk in. Many people are waiting to feel ready, waiting to feel strong, waiting to feel motivated. But the truth is, if you wait for a feeling, you will wake up behind. If you wait for motivation, you will wake up average. If you wait for confidence, you will wake up reacting. However, the people who stay ahead in life do not wake up reacting, they wake up deciding. The Bible says in 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7, "For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." That means when you wake up in the morning, fear is not your inheritance. Confusion is not your portion. Weakness is not your design. You have already been given power. The question is not whether God gave it. The question is whether you will walk in it. Furthermore, many believers pray for power when heaven has already supplied it. What we lack is not spiritual supply, it is intentional positioning. Power is not a feeling that falls on you like rain. Power is a position you step into like authority. When a king enters a room, he does not check how he feels, he knows who he is. And when you wake up each morning, you must decide who you are before the world tries to tell you. Consider this carefully. Two people wake up with the same 24 hours, same sun, same oxygen, same opportunities. Yet 5 years later, one is ahead and one is stuck. What happened? The difference was not time, it was decision. One person grabbed their phone and scrolled through other people's lives. The other grabbed their spirit and spoke over their own life. One complained about traffic, the economy, and the stress. The other commanded the day before the day commanded them. Meanwhile, your first thoughts every morning are seeds, and seeds grow. If your first thoughts are fear, you will harvest hesitation. If your first thoughts are comparison, you will harvest insecurity. If your first thoughts are gratitude and authority, you will harvest direction. Your mind in the first 10 minutes of your day is like wet cement. Whatever is impressed upon it hardens into your behavior. Consequently, if you wake up saying, "I am tired, I can't do this, life is hard," you have already programmed defeat. But if you wake up declaring, "God has given me power, love, and a sound mind," you have aligned yourself with divine design. And when you align with design, you access strength. Let me challenge you with this. Fear-based mornings create defeated days. When you wake up checking problems before you check purpose, you shrink. When you wake up measuring yourself against others, you weaken. When you wake up rushing instead of ruling your atmosphere, you surrender your advantage. Yet powerful people understand something different. They understand that the morning is a gate, and whoever controls the gate controls the day. Before emails, before notifications, before news, there must be a decision. I will not live accidentally. I will not drift into my future. I will not react my way through destiny. Moreover, waking up powerful is spiritual warfare in simplicity. It is choosing faith over fear before your feet hit the floor. It is declaring scripture before doubt whispers. It is remembering 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7, not as a memory verse, but as a morning command. Picture this. Tomorrow morning, your alarm rings. In that moment, you have two options. You can sigh and say, "Another stressful day." Or you can sit up and say, "God has not given me fear. I walk in power. I think with clarity. I move with love." That single decision shifts the atmosphere of your entire life. Ultimately, the difference between those who stay ahead and those who fall behind is not talent. It is not background. It is not even opportunity. It is the discipline of daily decision. Powerful people decide before distractions arrive. They decide before emotions fluctuate. They decide before pressure builds. And tonight, I need you to understand something deeply. You are not waiting for power to visit you. Power is waiting for you to stand up. So I want you to feel this declaration, not as words, but as alignment. Today, I wake up with power. I refuse to live accidentally. Say it until it interrupts fear. Say it until it corrects your thinking. Say it until your spirit agrees with heaven. Because when you wake up powerful, you don't just start a day, you start momentum. And momentum repeated daily becomes destiny. Excellent. Now let me take you deeper. If power is a decision, then the morning is the battlefield where that decision is tested. Because it is one thing to shout, "I have power," in a room like this. It is another thing to prove it at 5:30 a.m. when your flesh wants 5 more minutes. The truth is, many people lose their future before breakfast. Mark chapter 1 verse 35 says, "And in the morning, rising up a great while before day, he went out and departed into a solitary place and there prayed." Notice something powerful here. This was Jesus, the Son of God, full of authority, yet he protected his morning. If the one who carried divine power still guarded the early hours, what makes us think we can ignore them and still stay ahead? Moreover, your morning is not just a time slot. It is a gateway. And whatever enters first sets the tone for everything else. If noise enters first, clarity struggles all day. If pressure enters first, peace fights to survive. If God enters first, strength sustains you. Consider the pattern of most people. The alarm rings, the hand reaches for the phone. Notifications flood the mind. News headlines inject anxiety. Messages pull attention. Before they have spoken one word of purpose, they have already absorbed fear, comparison, urgency, and distraction. Then they wonder why the day feels heavy. Meanwhile, the person who stays ahead does something different. Before the world speaks, they let heaven speak. Before scrolling, they kneel. Before reacting, they reflect. Before rushing, they receive direction. Well, this is not about being religious, it is about being strategic. Furthermore, when Jesus rose early to pray, he was not trying to impress anyone. He was positioning himself. Power flows from preparation, not pressure. Many people want public results without private discipline. They want visible favor without invisible alignment. But the morning is where alignment is secured. Imagine 2 individuals again. Both are talented, both have dreams, both claim faith. One wakes up late, rushed, reactive. The other wakes up intentionally, speaks scripture, writes goals, moves with clarity. After 1 year, the gap between them is noticeable. After 5 years, the gap is undeniable. After 10 years, it looks like destiny chose favorites, but it didn't. Discipline did. Additionally, when you win your morning, you weaken chaos. Because when problems arise, and they will, you are not scrambling for strength. You already built it at sunrise. You are not searching for peace. You secured it before the emails arrived. There is something spiritually powerful about speaking before you consume. When your first words are gratitude instead of complaint, your heart shifts. When your first action is prayer instead of panic, your mind stabilizes. When your first focus is purpose instead of pressure, your steps become ordered. You see, staying ahead for life is not about sprinting occasionally. It is about winning consistently, and consistency begins when the day is still quiet. Likewise, let me ask you something personal. Who hears your voice first in the morning, God or the algorithm? Because whichever one you prioritize will disciple your thinking. And discipleship shapes destiny. Now understand this clearly. Protecting your morning does not mean waking up at the same hour as everyone else. It means waking up with intention. It means deciding that the first moments belong to clarity, not confusion. It means refusing to allow distraction to dictate direction. When you wake up early enough to think, to pray, to plan, you step ahead of pressure. You are no longer chasing the day, you are leading it. And here is the powerful truth. Small morning victories compound into lifetime advantage. 1 disciplined morning may not look dramatic, but 300 disciplined mornings will change your identity. 5 years of intentional mornings will change your legacy. So tomorrow, before the sun fully rises, make a decision. Even if it is just 15 focused minutes, pray, speak, write, think, align, because every morning you win becomes another brick in the foundation of a life that stays ahead. Powerful. Let's go deeper. Because after you win the morning externally, the next battlefield is internal. You can wake up early, pray, declare, plan, and still lose the day if your mind is undisciplined. The greatest advantage you will ever have is not money, not connections, not even opportunity. It is a controlled mind. Romans chapter 12 verse 2 says, "Be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." Notice the word renewing. Not renewed once, renewing, continuous, daily, intentional. In other words, your mind does not stay powerful automatically. It drifts, it absorbs, it reacts. If you do not manage it, it will manage you. Now think about this carefully. Every single day you are being programmed through conversations, through music, through news, through social media, through environments. The world is constantly discipling your thinking. And if you are not renewing your mind intentionally, you are conforming unconsciously. That is how people lose their advantage. Because you can start your morning with faith, but one negative conversation can contaminate your confidence. You can pray at sunrise, but comparison by noon can weaken your courage. You can declare purpose, but doubt by evening can shrink your vision. Therefore, staying ahead for life requires mental discipline. Let me make this practical. When a thought enters your mind, you have two options: entertain it or evaluate it. Most people entertain everything. Fear walks in, they host it. Insecurity walks in, they feed it. Offense walks in, they rehearse it. And what you rehearse, you reinforce. Meanwhile, powerful people evaluate thoughts. Does this align with God's word? Does this move me toward purpose? Does this strengthen my focus? If not, they reject it. Because your thoughts are seeds, and seeds do not ask permission to grow. If you allow anxiety to take root, it will grow into hesitation. If you allow comparison to take root, it will grow into paralysis. If you allow purpose to take root, it will grow into momentum. Let me say something bold. Many people are not behind because of lack of opportunity. They are behind because of undisciplined thinking. They replay past failures, they exaggerate future fears, they magnify obstacles, and then they wonder why they feel stuck. But Romans chapter 12 verse 2 is not a suggestion, it is a strategy. Transformation begins in the mind. Furthermore, renewing your mind means replacing lies with truth. Not just positive thinking, biblical thinking. When your mind says you're not capable, you respond, God has given me power, love, and a sound mind. When your mind says it's too late, you respond, with God all things are possible. When your mind says you're behind, you respond, my steps are ordered. You must talk back. Because silence in the face of negative thinking is agreement. Now imagine two individuals again. Both face challenges. One says internally, why does this always happen to me? The other says, this is uncomfortable, but it will grow me. Same situation, different mindset. One shrinks, one strengthens. 5 years later, one is fragile. The other is formidable. The difference? Mental renewal. Let me challenge you tonight. What thought patterns are secretly slowing you down? Is it procrastination disguised as perfectionism? Is it fear disguised as caution? Is it insecurity disguised as humility? If you are going to stay ahead for the rest of your life, your mind must become your servant, not your master. And here is the beautiful part. The more you renew your mind daily, the less chaos controls you. You become steady, focused, intentional. You stop reacting emotionally to every situation. You start responding strategically. That is power. Because a powerful life is built first in a powerful mind. So guard your thoughts, audit your inputs, be intentional about what you listen to, be selective about who influences you. Protect your mental environment like you protect your physical home. Renewing your mind daily is not optional. If you want to stay ahead, it is essential. Good. Now we step into something that will separate the inspired from the unstoppable, because motivation is exciting, but it is unreliable. You can feel motivated in a room like this. You can feel stirred. You can feel ready to change your life. But motivation is emotional fuel, and emotions fluctuate. Discipline, however, is covenant fuel. It does not ask how you feel. It asks what you decided. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24 to 27 says, know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receiveth the prize? So run that ye may obtain. And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. Temperate, controlled, regulated, intentional. The Apostle Paul compared destiny to a race. Not a stroll, not a hobby, a race. And in a race, the winner is not the most excited, it is the most disciplined. Now think about this carefully. The alarm rings at 5:30 a.m. Motivation says you should get up. Discipline says get up. Motivation says you should work on your goals. Discipline says sit down and do the work. Motivation cheers you. Discipline carries you. And here is the truth many do not like. You will not feel like doing what builds your future most days. You will not feel like studying when you are tired. You will not feel like exercising when you are comfortable. You will not feel like praying when distractions are loud. That is why discipline must be greater than emotion. Furthermore, comfort is the silent killer of destiny. Comfort whispers, tomorrow. Comfort says, you deserve to relax again. Comfort convinces you that small compromises do not matter. But small compromises repeated daily create major setbacks over time. Look at athletes. Look at high performers. They repeat the same fundamentals over and over and over again, not because it is exciting, but because it is necessary. When you see excellence publicly, you are witnessing private discipline, and spiritually, it is no different. You do not build strength in crisis, you build strength in consistency. Prayer when you do not feel like it. Focus when distractions are screaming. Integrity when shortcuts are available. That is temperance, that is mastery. Moreover, discipline protects your future self. Every time you choose what is right over what is easy, you are sending a gift forward in time. Every time you show up when you do not feel like it, you are reinforcing identity. You are telling yourself, I am not ruled by impulse, I am ruled by purpose. Let me ask you something serious. Where are you relying on motivation instead of building discipline? Is it your finances, your health, your spiritual life, your productivity? Because whatever area lacks discipline will eventually lag behind. And here is something powerful. Discipline creates confidence. When you know you are consistent, you move differently, you speak differently, you approach opportunities differently. Not because you are arrogant, but because you trust your habits. 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 27 says, but I keep under my body and bring it into subjection. That means Paul did not let his feelings lead him. He led his feelings. He did not negotiate with his flesh. He instructed it. That is maturity. If you want to stay ahead for the rest of your life, you must stop negotiating with your weaknesses. Stop explaining your procrastination. Stop justifying your inconsistency. Decide that your habits will align with your destiny. Because in the end, the life you build will not be the result of what you intended, it will be the result of what you repeated. So choose discipline, choose structure, choose consistency. Even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. And when motivation fades, as it always does, discipline will keep you moving forward. Excellent. Now we are entering the core of it all. Because you can wake up early, you can renew your mind, you can even become disciplined. But if you do not know where you are going, you can be running fast in the wrong direction. Proverbs chapter 29 verse 18 says, where there is no vision, the people perish. Notice it does not say where there is no effort. It does not say where there is no activity. It says where there is no vision. That means destruction is not always caused by laziness. Sometimes it is caused by lack of clarity. You can be busy and still be behind. In fact, many people are exhausted not because they are productive, but because they are distracted. They say yes to everything. They chase every opportunity. They respond to every message. They attend every invitation. And at the end of the year, they have movement, but no measurable progress. Clarity is power. When you know your assignment, you stop competing with people who are not in your lane. When you know your calling, you stop envying someone else's platform. When you know your direction, you stop being emotionally shaken by trends. Vision organizes your life. Let me ask you something deeply personal. What does ahead actually mean for you? Ahead financially? Ahead spiritually? Ahead in impact? Ahead in discipline? If you cannot define it, you cannot pursue it. Furthermore, purpose filters your decisions. When an opportunity comes, vision asks, does this align with where I am going? When a distraction appears, vision says, that is good, but it is not mine. When pressure tries to push you into comparison, vision anchors you. Without clarity, discipline becomes scattered. You will work hard but not effectively. You will grind but not strategically. You will be consistent but not aligned. Meanwhile, when vision is clear, even small actions become powerful because every action is connected to something bigger than today. You are no longer reacting to survival. You are building with intention. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine two individuals both waking up at 5 a.m., both disciplined, both hardworking. One has written down a 5-year vision aligned with God's purpose. The other is simply trying to do better. 5 years later, one has direction, momentum, and measurable growth. The other feels busy but unsure. The difference: clarity. And clarity does not come by accident. It comes through reflection, prayer, and honesty. It requires asking God not just for blessings, but for assignment. It requires quiet moments where you write, think, and evaluate. It requires courage to admit when you are pursuing something that looks impressive but is not aligned. Vision will cost you distractions. It may cost you certain friendships. It may cost you certain habits. It may cost you comfort. But what it gives back is focus, and focus multiplies results. Proverbs chapter 29 verse 18 warns that without vision, people perish. Perish does not always mean physical death. It can mean wasted potential. It can mean unused gifts. It can mean drifting through life without ever stepping fully into purpose. You were not designed to drift. You were designed to build, to lead, to create impact in alignment with God's intention. And once you define your vision clearly, every morning becomes more powerful. Because now you are not just waking up with energy, you are waking up with direction. So tonight I challenge you, write the vision. Define what staying ahead looks like in your spiritual life, your character, your career, your health. Make it plain, make it measurable, make it aligned with God's word. Because once vision is clear, discipline has a target. And when discipline has a target, progress becomes inevitable, powerful. Because now we are dealing with something many disciplined people ignore: energy. You can have vision. You can have discipline. You can wake up early. But if you do not manage your strength, you will burn out before breakthrough. You will be ahead temporarily, then exhausted permanently. Isaiah chapter 40 verse 31 says, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." Notice the promise is not just movement, it is sustained movement. Run and not be weary, walk and not faint. That means God never designed progress to destroy you. Yet many people live in constant fatigue, spiritually drained, emotionally overloaded, physically depleted, and they call it ambition. But exhaustion is not always a badge of honor. Sometimes it is evidence of mismanagement. Energy is a currency. Every conversation costs energy. Every decision costs energy. Every worry costs energy. Every unresolved offense costs energy. And if you are spending energy everywhere, you will have none left for what truly matters. Here is the reality. Staying ahead for life is not about pushing harder every day. It is about renewing strategically every day. Waiting upon the Lord in Isaiah chapter 40 verse 31 is not passive laziness. It is intentional renewal. It is positioning yourself in God's presence so that strength is restored at the source. Because if you try to sustain destiny on willpower alone, you will collapse under pressure. Moreover, boundaries are spiritual wisdom. Not every invitation deserves your attendance. Not every argument deserves your response. Not every opportunity deserves your time. Sometimes saying no is the most powerful yes you can give to your purpose. Let me ask you something serious. Where is your energy leaking? Is it in toxic conversations? Is it in constant comparison? Is it in overcommitting? Is it in trying to impress people who are not assigned to your life? Because exhaustion often reveals misplaced priorities. Consider this carefully. An exhausted visionary will start doubting their vision. A drained leader will start resenting their responsibility. A tired believer will start questioning their faith, not because the calling changed, but because the strength diminished. And when strength diminishes, perspective distorts. That is why renewal must be scheduled, not accidental. Time with God, time in rest, time in reflection, time in physical care. Your body is not separate from your purpose, it carries it. Your emotions are not irrelevant, they influence your decisions. You cannot pray for long-term impact while neglecting the vessel that carries it. Furthermore, powerful people understand rhythm. There is a time to push and a time to pause, a time to work and a time to replenish. Even in creation, God modeled rhythm, work and rest, effort and renewal. If you ignore rhythm, you will eventually be forced into rest by breakdown, and breakdown is expensive. So if you want to stay ahead for decades, not just months, you must guard your strength intentionally. Protect your peace, protect your focus, protect your physical health, protect your spiritual connection. Because Isaiah chapter 40 verse 31 promises something beautiful. When you renew your strength properly, you will run and not be weary. That means sustainable excellence. That means longevity. That means impact that lasts. You are not called to flash briefly and fade quickly. You are called to build steadily and endure faithfully. So manage your energy like it matters, because it does. Protect it like treasure, because it is. Renew it daily, because your future depends on it. Yes, now we step into the law that quietly shapes destinies, consistency, because energy gives you strength, vision gives you direction, discipline gives you structure, but consistency gives you momentum. And momentum is what separates temporary excitement from lifetime advantage. Galatians chapter 6 verse 9 says, "And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not." Notice the condition, if we faint not. The harvest is guaranteed, but only to the consistent. This is where many people miss it. They start strong, January discipline, February fire, March focus, but by mid-year fatigue sets in, distractions creep in, emotions fluctuate, and they slow down. Not because the goal disappeared, but because endurance. However, staying ahead for the rest of your life is not about dramatic bursts of effort. It is about steady obedience. Let me explain something powerful. Small actions repeated daily compound into extraordinary results. One disciplined morning will not transform your life, but 300 disciplined mornings will transform your identity. One workout does little. 1 year of consistency reshapes your body. One prayer feels simple. Years of prayer reshape your spirit. Consistency is spiritual compound interest. Furthermore, most people overestimate what they can do in a week and underestimate what they can do in 5 years. They look for quick results, fast recognition, immediate harvest, but God works in seasons, and seasons require patience. Galatians chapter 6 verse 9 reminds us that there is a due season. Due season means appointed time. It means harvest is scheduled, but it is scheduled for the consistent. Now imagine two individuals again. Both hear this message. Both feel inspired. Both write goals. After 1 month, both are committed. After 6 months, one is still steady, the other is inconsistent. After 3 years, one has visible growth. The other has stories of almost. The difference was not ability, it was fainting. Fainting does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like skipping just 1 day, delaying just one task, compromising just this once. But fainting in small ways repeatedly becomes falling behind significantly. Meanwhile, the consistent person understands something deeper. Feelings are temporary, but habits are formative. They show up even when progress is invisible. They continue even when applause is absent. They stay committed even when results are slow. That is maturity. Because when you refuse to faint, you build trust with yourself. And when you trust yourself, confidence increases. When confidence increases, boldness grows. When boldness grows, opportunities expand. Consistency builds identity. You stop saying, "I'm trying to be disciplined," and you start saying, "I am disciplined." You stop saying, "I hope I grow," and you start seeing measurable progress. You stop chasing momentum because you have become momentum. Moreover, consistency reduces chaos. When your routines are stable, your emotions stabilize. When your habits are firm, your outcomes become predictable. And predictability in growth is powerful. Let me ask you honestly, where have you fainted? Not failed, fainted. Where did you stop too soon? Where did you quit quietly? Where did you allow discouragement to interrupt discipline? Because the promise still stands. In due season, we shall reap if we faint not. That means your harvest is not canceled. It is waiting on your consistency. If you wake up powerful daily, renew your mind daily, practice discipline daily, guard your energy daily, and remain consistent daily, staying ahead stops being a struggle. It becomes your lifestyle. And over time, people will call you fortunate. They will call you gifted. They will say you are blessed. But what they are really witnessing is compounded consistency. Beautiful. Now we enter the final dimension, the one that determines whether you rise temporarily or remain elevated for life. Because you can be powerful, disciplined, focused, consistent, and still fall if pride enters quietly. James chapter 4 verse 10 says, "Humble yourselves in the sight of the Lord, and he shall lift you up." Notice something profound. The lifting is God's responsibility. The humbling is yours. Staying ahead for life requires humility. Now understand this clearly. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It is thinking correctly about yourself. It is recognizing that your strength came from God. Your opportunity came from God. Your breath came from God. And when you remember the source, you protect your future. Unfortunately, success has a subtle danger. When progress becomes visible, when results begin to show, when others start recognizing your growth, pride can whisper, "You did this alone." And the moment you believe that, you disconnect from the very source that sustained you. Moreover, pride stops learning. The humble person stays teachable. They ask questions. They seek correction. They evaluate themselves honestly. But the proud person resists feedback. They defend weaknesses. They assume they already know enough. And when learning stops, growth stops. Let me ask you something deeply reflective. Who can correct you? Who has permission to challenge you? Who can point out your blind spots without you becoming defensive? Because if no one can speak into your life, elevation becomes dangerous. James chapter 4 verse 10 reminds us that lifting comes from God. That means promotion is safest when character is strong. Influence is safest when humility is present. Expansion is safest when gratitude is active. Furthermore, humility keeps your heart clean while your life grows big. It reminds you that staying ahead is not about proving superiority, it is about fulfilling assignment. It keeps you grounded when opportunities multiply. It keeps you grateful when doors open. Consider this carefully. Many people start with prayer and end with pride. They begin dependent and become self-sufficient. And slowly, without noticing, they drift. But the person who stays ahead for decades remains teachable. They keep reading, they keep listening, they keep refining. They understand that growth is lifelong. They do not arrive, they evolve. Additionally, humility protects relationships. When you stay humble, you honor others, you collaborate better, you lead with grace. You recognize that success is not a solo performance, it is often supported by unseen hands. If you want to finish strong, you must remain small in your own eyes and great in responsibility. You must remember where you started. You must remember the prayers you once prayed. You must remember the days you asked God for what you now carry, because gratitude guards elevation.